What's good, everybody? Grind Shine Recovery. Wanted to jump on here. We got a guest coming on here in just a few, hopefully. Either way, we're going to do our normal Saturday live stream. I was on here Wednesday just for a brief while. I got on about an hour late, guys. I think I might be moving my time back for Wednesdays at 7 and Saturdays at 7. But wanted to jump on here now and just talk about, staying in our lane despite the crazy world we're living in right now. It's just something we have to do. We can't control how a lot of things are going on around us, especially as addicts. We expect perfect conditions to be able to, for things to fall into place for us, and sometimes they won't. It's just facts of the matter. What's up, Merc? Also, guys, if you ever want to catch a really cool Marib group, Merc, drop the link in the comments so that's there, man. I want to definitely get on there with you tonight. Sorry about last week, but yeah, definitely, and send me a link if you don't care by message as well, Merc. But yeah, guys, we can't control the chaos that's going on around us. All we can do is, try to focus on ourselves, keep ourselves together and in the best, shape mentally and physically that we can. That way, we're able to help others. And that's all you can really do. I've had a few people reach out to me recently who's kind of fell back, and I'm glad they hurried and reached out. And that's one thing I always tell people, man, don't if you do fall off, don't sit there and feel shame, and don't come back to your recovery community and your recovery groups, because that's the last thing that people want. I know it's hard to do, especially if you've had decent amount of time, but I know somebody who's very big in the community who reached out to me, and I felt really honored that they did. Sabbatha, what's up? Good to see you here. And it was honored that he reached out to me of all people, but it's cool because me and him met through YouTube and stuff, and here he started having some struggles, and he reached out to me because of this channel, which was awesome. Guys, we're hopefully Big B will be on here in a few, because he's going to share a little bit more of his story, so we're going to kind of get into that. But I wanted to also talk, we can't wait for things to be perfect, guys. All right, here he is. Let's see here. Let's get him in here. There you are. What's up, brother?
What's up, bro?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah, living the dream.
It's a little rough, as you know. Coming off methadone here, transitioning to Suboxone is rough.
Yeah. So I wanted you to get on here and share. You talked to me some about doing legal aid work. Before we get into that, because I do want you to highlight that.
I can't hear you, bro.
You can't hear me? Let me see what's up with my audio.
A lot of background noise. Something's echoing or something.
All right, here. Let me see if I.
Or is it your kiddo? Maybe you have a child.
Yeah. It might be. It might be the TV in the background. Hang on.
If it's your kid, bro, don't even worry about that.
I need this down a little, okay? Yeah, I need you to let this down a little, okay? Please. You can go. You want to use my phone? All right. Is that better for you, man?
Yeah, bro. If it was your kid, I was good. If that's your child, don't even worry. Bro.
No, you're good. You're good. I need to have some. You're good. Trust me. There's 3 other TVs in the house, so it's no big deal.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, let's. I wanted you to kind of share about what led you to kind of get into the legal aid work and stuff like that, man.
Okay. So the last time we had spoke, sorry,
You're good.
Rolling my spliff here for a sec. Okay, so the last time we had spoke, we had talked on, some crazy stories and shit like that, and just some of the hard times and whatever, and some of the fun times. But what I left out is so about 2 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now. You know, memory's crazy, but I got sober for like 6 or 7 months straight. I was living in a sober house, and I ended up breaking my back while at the gym.
Oh man.
So I got into it all over again. You know.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't believe me at the hospital because they had labeled me a drug seeker. So when I went there, they were trying to tell me that my pain wasn't enough for an MRI and this and that. Meanwhile, I couldn't even go to the bathroom. You know?
Oh man. Yeah. So it all, yeah. Cause I know when I was using, I was always in the ER trying, seeking. So it comes back to bite you, you know.
Always for me because I had that prescription already, right? But this time it just wasn't working because they knew, that I had gotten clean and shit. And I was like, yo, like, I'm not playing. This really hurts, like. So my mom ended up taking me to the ER by my ear, and they had given me an MRI, and they said I needed, emergency surgery. So they flew me back to the city, and I had surgery, and then they flew me back up, and I had gone back on the methadone, instead of using heroin and hydromorph and shit like that. Anyway, so that led into another deep 3 or 4 years, and I finally just transitioned off from Suboxone like last weekend, like the last time you and I had.
That's awesome, man. And don't ever. I always tell people, some people need to be on maintenance longer than others. You know what I mean? Because some of us, I got addicted because of legitimate injuries. You know what I mean? I blew 3 of my discs in my lower back. And I had legitimate issues, when I got addicted. So that's why I do believe maintenance helps people to a point. So that's one thing. It's each person has to find their path on that. So I guess that led you into kind of going towards the legal aid work.
Yeah. So what had happened was, I was traveling on the highway with some cannabis in my trunk. And I had gotten caught. There was a bunch of cops waiting for me at the side of the road because I had broke down in one of my trucks. Can you see me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I had broken down in one of my trucks at the time. I just needed gas or something, and the actual tow truck driver called the cops on me and said that I had a whole bunch of there. I couldn't see me in the viewfinder. There we go.
Oh, you're good.
So the tow truck had called the cops and said that I had a bunch of weed in the car and it smelled like weed and shit.
So they were just waiting to knock you when you're coming by.
So they were waiting for me at the side of the highway. There was 3 cruisers waiting for me. As soon as I came by, they U-turned and they were following me. I said, oh, fuck, here we go. But I was used to it because, like I said on the last interview, the RCMP was always conducting pill searches to make sure that I had the correct number of pills because of all the prescriptions I had and shit, right? So I was used to
the police would do searches? Is that what you're saying? Like when you say the RCMP, I'm not.
Sorry, the RCMP is like the ATF here in Canada. It's like alcohol, tobacco, firearms. It's the
okay. So they could actually come check your pills if you're prescribed large amounts of narcotics, I guess is what you're saying?
Right. So they would check. So they would take my oxys, for example, and they would say, okay, so you got these on Thursday and you take 12 a day. So they would minus it and make sure that the pills added up. And I didn't just have 2 left in a big bottle and I wasn't selling them all because I drove serious cars and shit like that. So they thought I was selling them all,
Yeah.
Little did they know I was actually buying more than I was prescribed.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It happens. You end up, buying them 2-3 weeks out of the month, and maybe your script gets you a week to 10 days if you're lucky. So, so did you end up defending yourself in this case? Is that kind of
right? Exactly. I'd started learning some of this jurisdiction and some of this legalese stuff online on YouTube. And I have ADHD pretty badly, and I was always very hard on myself. That's something that Indie Animal Jade said last night. Shout out to him for having me on live last week. But
he's a good dude, man. I've had him on the channel, and I've been on his quite a few times, so he's a good dude.
Yeah, I made sure and shouted out our first interview and shit like that. So hopefully people come up and check it out as well.
Yeah, I'll drop a link in the description for your channel as well. So were you having to were you able to be out and free while you're fighting this case, or were you inside?
Yeah, I was, thankfully, because I hadn't had any charges from back in the day that had still stuck. I was lucky. I've always gotten conditional discharges, so I never had to do any long bits. It was only kind of in between and shit, you know.
Okay.
But
So I guess that's like an OR bond or something, like
right.
conditional. Okay.
It's called like you know, you'll what's it called? You sign to say that you're going to appear. I forget what it's called, but like you can sign yourself out basically. Your own bond to say that you're going to show
Yeah,
up.
yeah, you're going to show up for court.
Right. So I started speaking to a few people on Socratics and things like that. Socratics are a good way of Socratics are a designated set of questions to kind of back somebody in a corner or to try and get them to see their own hypocrisy things.
Yeah.
So what I essentially did was I just went down the essential elements of the charge, you know, because it's only allegations, right? And when it's a non-violent victimless crime, it's only a code or a statute, you know, and there's no actual physical, like the Constitution, for example. What factual evidence do we rely on to show that Constitution actually applies to us or, you know, to Americans? Everybody says, oh, the Constitution. How do you know that applies? It's written on fucking paper, but is everybody a citizen? What does a citizen mean? You know, this is the legalese that they go over.
Yeah.
You know, it's based on admiralty law, which was years and years and years ago, and that's like law of the sea. So they bastardized the languages like jurisdiction or even the word understand. You know, when a judge or when a lawyer asks you, sir, do you understand? Do you understand what you've been charged with here today? Do you know what he's even at? Do you know he's essentially asking you?
Yeah. They're asking if you understand the charges and the allegations, you know, put against you in court.
Not even. He's asking if you agree to stand under him. Because if you're under him and he's sitting over you, you know, you're not on a level playing field in the courtroom, right? It's a courtroom, like
yeah. The judge is above you, yeah.
So he can't hear you. So once he asks you if you understand and you say yes, well, you've now agreed to be under their jurisdiction. So you've just agreed essentially to take a plea deal or whatever, and you've agreed to play ball in the courtroom in the first place.
Yeah.
Instead of actually asking what evidence you need to be there to begin with.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing is a lot of people don't realize, like, search and seizures, you know, reasonable cause, the things like that, reasonable cause to search. People think a cop just has that right, where they don't actually have that right. If you know your rights or have a good lawyer, I used to have a rights card that I would carry and just give to cops if they asked to search my car, and they hated it because they knew they would have to contact my lawyer and have him present to search me, and they knew they couldn't get a legal, you know what I mean? Because then that lawyer is going to make sure they had reasonable cause for that search. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it does definitely. They don't. You know, it's a dirty game. Like I've always said, in the States, if you don't have money, you're through in court. You know what I mean? Like especially if you catch a felony or something, you're going to sit in jail while you fight your case. If you have money, you're more than likely going to be able to post a bond and be out, have a lawyer, and not a public pretender. You know what I mean?
That's it, bro.
Yeah. And that's the thing is these people are working in the same. They work side by side with the prosecutor. You're just a case they got to get through that day. You know, if you're taking a public defender in the States.
Right. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but one of these Socratic questions right off rent that I asked them is, you know, and sorry, not questions, but a clarification, because they're not allowed to actually technically answer questions. They'll tell you if you have any questions, you got to take a public pretender, right? Like you said.
Really?
You have to be appointed a lawyer. Well, my intentions are to plead guilty here and right now. But before doing so, I just have a few clarifications, such as, do I have the right to a fair and meaningful hearing? You know, and usually the judge will say, well, yeah, of course. Now you've just backed into a corner. Well, how can I possibly get a fair and meaningful hearing if all three, the judge, the prosecution,
Yeah.
My public pretender are all on the same team or part of the bar membership.
Yeah.
Not. So you guys all just had lunch together talking about my case like I'm your fucking, like a minion, and then I come
Yeah.
into court and someone's representing me. I mean, they ask everybody all rise. Who rises? Who rises but the dead? So we're talking to dead entities. On our driver's license and our social insurance card, our names are printed in an all caps letter. That's a corporation. So contract law, UCC, usually says anything within a box, right? Even look on your money. It says Federal Reserve note, and then there's a box there. So anything inside that box is null. You know how they always ask you to sign something and they say don't go out of that box? If you go out of that box, you got to redo the form and shit like that. You ever remember back?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's why. Because it's an all caps entity, a dead corporation. Your name technically is a dead corporation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the legal system, man, is just there's so much ins and outs to it. That's one thing. I just feel like a lot of people, when they're in court, like you say, when they ask you that question, do you understand? A lot of people don't realize what they agree to. They don't realize that when you're given a public defender, it's not the same as a regular lawyer by any means.
No.
They're
all liars.
Yeah. Well, I've always felt like it's just not a fair playing field. If you don't have money, you don't get good legal representation. You could say
you do. I'll tell you another reason when I started. I paid a lawyer $15,000 to start my case, and I heard him say when we came in for lunch off recess, he said, "Oh, my friend and I here talking over lunch." I thought he was talking about me, but he wasn't. He was talking about the district attorney. And I said, "Whoa, hold up a second." The judge, hold up, sir. You can't speak out of turn. Hi. My God, she's mad cute, bro. So
that's my little one. She keeps me busy.
Yeah, I bet.
So you've represented other people now, or helped other people with cases.
Yeah.
Why don't you highlight some of that?
Sorry.
Highlight some of that, like some of the people you've helped represent, or what their cases were like, or whatever.
So I helped a guy that was he owns a big transmission. It's like a body shop.
He owns a garage or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
And they had been thrown with like a $50,000 lawsuit or something. And we went off rip. I did a little bit of research on the vehicle. We found out that they had taken advantage of my buddy's company and had pretty much cut their lines, and then went there and then, said my buddy didn't do a good job and ruined her car, and you know what I mean? But I found out where she screwed up along the way, and I showed the judge, and the judge was like, asked her, like, "Ma'am, you had to have these lines yourself on this road, correct?" And she by accident admitted to it, and it was over. So my buddy was like, "Oh, respect, bro." Like, he gave me a good amount of money, and I started to be interested.
So what court can you go into and represent someone? Like, can you represent anyone who wants you to represent them? I mean, how's that work where you're up there? I guess is what I'm asking. Or is it certain levels of court that you can go into?
Well, in Canada, there's a difference because they allow what's called a Mackenzie friend or a paralegal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't actually have to be like a lawyer, like, whatever, one of the certified lawyers. I mean, a lawyer is simply, by definition, a lawyer is somebody that's capable at law. By capable, I mean capable at speaking their legalese. So say things like, "Do you understand what I'm saying to you?" So instead of trying to fool everybody's in such a rush, like you said, when they go up there, because there's a big crowd behind them and they don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
So the judge is like, "Well, sir, we were calling you," and they make you almost freeze up because they're just talking all this shit. It's like they expect what's happening and what's going on. So they're just like, "So you understand, right? You just want to get it over with because you're afraid everyone's going to look at you stupid."
Yeah. And
That's the problem. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. That's exactly the problem. Is people they panic. You're in a lot of times you're processed through like cattle. Like if you're arrested, and you go to court, you sit in jail that night. You go to court the next morning, and how fast they go through each person. So you're literally brought from a bullpen holding tank to out into this courtroom, asked all these legal question jargon, and then asked if you understand. So. Yeah, it's definitely people don't realize what they're agreeing to, right? A lot of times, I think.
And they're giving away their consent by agreeing to plea deals and shit like that, and they have no idea. A lot of these people are there by their own accordance, by their own consent, because they didn't comprehend. So when somebody says that to me in court, when the judge says, "Sir, do you understand?" I'll say, "I comprehend the words that you're saying." But if you're asking me to agree into contract, then no. It depends on usually what I'll say is, it depends on what the definition of that word is. Are we going on my or are we going on your definition? And the judge, oh man, when you start asking questions like that, how do you look stupid?
Yeah.
To the sheep, you look. Sorry, I'm yelling because it's.
No, you're good. But so what would you tell? I guess what would you tell anybody that has a case going on or something like that? What's your best recommendation to them if they had to go with a public defender?
Well, first of all, again, it really highly depends on what the case is. If there's a victim involved or not. If it's a non-violent victimless crime, like I said, then I suggest looking into a few different videos, the Socratic.
Yeah.
But if there's an actual victim involved, like if you went up and smacked somebody or somebody smacked you or something, it's you versus them, and the judge is there between the two of you. When it's a non-violent victimless crime, it's you versus the prosecution. Which is more or less the state then, right?
That becomes like in the United States, it would be the state that it happened in or the county court, whatever,
Right.
So.
And here it's versus the crown. So it's versus the queen. So so you mean to tell me the queen was fucking I'm sorry.
You're good. But yeah, it's the thing of it is it just seems like it's a rigged game. Like I said, in the United States, if you don't have money, you can definitely get done really bad. I mean, my last number was on a case I didn't even do. I literally, my bond was so high because of the charge and whatnot. It was just ridiculous. I was incarcerated almost half a year before I was even, even got into court. And that's what people don't realize is, there are innocent people who just get done dirty by the system. And if you have a record, it's really easy to happen because you're an even easier conviction already, So.
It's called railroaded. A lot of people get railroaded. Too many people get railroaded these days.
Yeah. Well, man, I hate to cut this short, but I got this munchkin kind of driving me crazy, so I'm going to have to cut it short. There's a really cool Mara meeting. The link's in the comments, so check out this video later and maybe jump in the meeting with me.
What time?
7:00.
Yeah, okay, I'll do my best, bro.
Yeah, and if not, well, I'll get with you again at a better time when I have a babysitter.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do another part. We can talk more about getting off the drugs and shit. Sounds good.
I would love that, man. And I'd like to hear a little